Welcome to Betrayal Diaries, where secrets shatter, trust breaks, and shocking betrayal stories come alive. I only need 300 subscribers, so hit that button and join the journey today. When my wife Claire told me about her upcoming work party, her eyes lit up with the kind of excitement I hadn't seen in a long time. She worked in corporate finance, and these events were apparently a big deal for networking and building connections. The venue was luxurious, the kind of place that made me feel out of place just hearing about it. She insisted she needed a new dress, shoes, and even professional makeup for the evening. I didn't argue. I just handed her my card and told her to get whatever she wanted. After all, she worked hard, and if this event meant so much to her, then I wanted her to shine. The total bill stung when I saw it later, but I brushed it off. That's what husbands do, right? Support their wives, make them feel like they belong. Claire had been distant lately, often working late, always glued to her phone, always tired when she came home. I thought maybe this party would be a turning point, a night to remind her that she wasn't alone, that I was still here, proud of her. She told me not to come, said it was employees only, and that spouses wouldn't be allowed. But something about the way she said it didn't sit right with me. There was hesitation in her voice, a flicker in her eyes. So without telling her, I decided I'd swing by later in the evening, just to surprise her, maybe even bring flowers. I thought it would be a sweet gesture, something she'd appreciate. The night of the party, I drove to the hotel where it was being held. The valet took my car, and I walked into the grand lobby, nervous but excited. I imagined Claire's smile when she saw me, how she'd proudly introduce me to her colleagues, how maybe we'd even share a dance. But as I stepped closer to the ballroom, I realized something was off. Spouses weren't excluded at all. Couples were everywhere, husbands and wives dressed to the nines, holding hands, laughing together. Confusion twisted in my stomach. Why would she lie about that? My heart started to pound as I scanned the room, searching for her. Then I saw her. She wasn't alone. She was standing with a man I didn't recognize, her hand resting lightly on his chest, her laughter too familiar, too intimate. And in that moment, the flowers in my hand felt heavy, useless, and I realized that what I was about to discover would change everything. At first, I told myself I must be misreading the situation. Maybe it was just a friendly gesture, a moment caught at the wrong angle. But as I moved closer, weaving through the glittering crowd, the truth sharpened into focus. Claire wasn't acting like a wife proud of her husband waiting at home. She was acting like a woman completely absorbed in another man's attention. The man she was with was tall, broad-shouldered, and carried himself with an ease that made me feel small before he even noticed me. He leaned close when she spoke, whispered something that made her laugh in that soft, private way she used to laugh with me years ago. Her hand lingered on his arm longer than it should have, like it belonged there. I stood frozen, clutching the flowers, my throat dry. Around us, people clinked glasses, music played, and conversations buzzed, but all I could hear was the sound of my own pulse thundering in my ears. I wanted to storm over, to demand answers, to shout at her in front of everyone. But instead I just watched as she tilted her head back, as his hand brushed against her waist, as if he already knew she was his. It was then that I realized I hadn't just funded her night of glamour. I had paid for my own humiliation. The dress, the shoes, the makeup. All of it wasn't for me, wasn't for our marriage. It was for him. I don't know how long I stood there before she finally noticed me. Her eyes widened, and for the briefest second, guilt flashed across her face. But then it was gone, replaced by irritation, as if I was the one intruding. She excused herself from the man and walked toward me, her heels clicking sharply against the polished floor. "What are you doing here?" she hissed under her breath, her smile still plastered on for anyone watching. I held up the flowers like a fool. "I came to surprise you," I said quietly. Her eyes darted around nervously before narrowing on me. "We'll talk later. Go home." Go home. That was all she had to say. No embrace, no gratitude, not even a shred of concern for the look on my face. Just cold dismissal. And as she turned back to him, I felt something inside me break, not loudly, not violently, but in a quiet, final way. I walked out of that hall with the flowers still in my hands, their petals trembling with every step I took. The night air hit me like a slap, cold and sharp, but it couldn't numb the ache spreading through my chest. I sat in the car for what felt like hours, staring at the steering wheel, trying to make sense of the reality I had just witnessed. Claire wasn't just distant. She wasn't just tired or overworked. She had already moved on in her heart, and the man inside that ballroom was the proof. Over the next few days, I kept waiting for her to come clean. I wanted to believe there was some explanation, some thread of loyalty still holding us together. But when she finally sat me down, her words crushed whatever hope I had left. "Tom, you don't understand," she said with that same tone she often used when explaining things to a child. "This is the life I've always wanted. The dinners, the events, the networking, it's who I am now. And you just don't fit in anymore." Her honesty was brutal, and yet it was laced with the arrogance of someone who had already decided I wasn't enough. All I could think about was how I had sacrificed for her, how I had worked overtime, tightened our budget, and poured every ounce of myself into making her dreams possible. And now, those same dreams had built a world where there was no room left for me. I didn't shout. I didn't beg. I just looked at her and asked, "And what about us? What about everything we've built together?" She paused, as if searching for a polite way to say what she really meant. Finally, she said, "We've grown apart, Tom. Maybe it's time to accept that." That night, I lay awake replaying the last 16 years. The laughter, the late-night drives, the promises we made in the early days, they all felt like echoes of a life I no longer recognized. And as painful as it was, clarity settled over me. She had made her choice. Now it was time for me to make mine. The next morning, I walked into a lawyer's office. Not the kind she could intimidate me about, not the kind she assumed I could never afford, but one who looked me in the eye and told me, "You don't have to let her take everything from you." Filing for divorce wasn't an act of revenge. It was survival. It was reclaiming the dignity she had tried to strip away. And when the papers were finally served, Claire's shock was almost satisfying. For once, she wasn't the one in control. In the end, she lost the man who had carried her dreams, the man who had loved her beyond reason. And me? I lost the illusion that she had ever valued me at all. But what I gained was far more powerful: freedom. Freedom to start over, to rebuild, to never again pay the price of my own heartbreak.